Welcome to the Empowering Voices of Harmony, Cold Journeys to Mental Health Wellness. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work. We pay our respects to elders, past and present, and we extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples tuning in today. A disclaimer that this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and should not be relied on as personal advice. Always seek the guidance of your doctor, psychologist, or other qualified health professionals regarding your physical and/or mental health. If you're experiencing a crisis, call 000 or Lifeline on 13 11 14 for suicide prevention services. Lifeline also offers SMS service on 0477 13 11 14. To learn more about Mental Health Foundation Australia, visit our website at mhfa.org.au. You can also follow us for updates on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. You can also call us at 1300 643 287 or email us at admin@mhfa.org.au. My name is Jim Gooden, and in today's episode we'll be talking about refugees and migrants, specifically the trials, tribulations and stressors they can face. From disempowerment to empowerment, to the role of education and policy in migration, to power and hope and determination. Migrants and refugees are part and parcel of Australian life. We are a nation of refugees and migrants. Along with the USA, New Zealand and Canada, Australia has the highest proportion of migrant settlers in a developed nation. The 2021 government census report revealed that 27% of Australians were born overseas, and 46% of Australian households had at least one parent born overseas. We are a rich, multi-faith, multicultural, multilinguistic land, and always have been, especially since the creation of the Department of Immigration back in 1945. I like to think we are a caring, welcoming nation, one that welcomes people from all walks of life. We can and we should be. Today, we have a guest with a remarkable story. A story that you, the viewer and listener, may relate to. A story you can perhaps learn from. Or one that can help you through your own immigrational or refugee struggles. Good afternoon, Boy. Welcome to the show. Would you like to kindly introduce yourself? Tell us about the numerous programs and initiatives you're involved in, and explain your reason for joining us in the show today.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me on the show, and I wish you all, the viewers, good health, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Poiti, and I'm the Deputy Chairperson at the Victorian Multicultural Commission. I'm also a community advocate that have worked with numerous organizations in order to empower our communities and how we can all work together in unity and address some of the challenges that impact our multicultural society. And so I'm very passionate about working in the space, and as a person of lived experience from a refugee background, it gives me great delight that I can be a voice for many of us with the lived experience, and try and see how we can all address some of the challenges we face in life together. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very, very excited.
It's really delightful to have you here, Boy, and we know each other from long in the past, and we've always been very familiar and friendly. So to actually be honoured enough to hear your story and hear your thoughts about your experiences, very grateful for your presence. So let's take a trip down memory lane.
Yes.
To your childhood in Burma. What was it like growing up there? Do you have any fond or difficult memories from that time?
Thanks, Jim. I have some very vivid memories of my childhood growing up in Burma, also known as Myanmar. Um, some of the vivid memories that comes to mind are the paddy fields as kids growing up, us boys making traps and fishing and playing in the uh, beside the paddy fields, be it after harvest or before harvest. Uh, Boys playing carefree, but also some vivid memories of the scenic views of Myanmar. In the last couple of years, Burma was opened up and people had the opportunity to go and visit. But for those of you who might have not had the opportunity, uh, Burma is a very, very beautiful country,
I've
and
been there and I agree with that.
thank you. And so yeah, to those who have been there will know how beautiful it is and the warm hospitality of the people there. Those are some of the memories. And another memory that comes to mind is often when we have celebrations or festivals. As a village, we would gather together to support each other. The feast we would have, but not necessarily looking at the ethnicity or the religions that we belong to, but as a community, we come together to support one another's initiatives and celebrate those, cultural events. Those were some great memories I have of Burma. Of course, I must admit that uh, after our independence in 1948, we've not had a very successful government, and we've had a very challenging time as well. So those were some of the memories that come to mind.
Thank you, Bray. I can't imagine what it was like to live uh, when the Civil War in Burma, Myanmar took place. Can you share some of your recollections of the war and the 5 years you spent in a refugee camp? What were the living conditions like, and how did they affect your mental state? And I hope I haven't triggered you in any way in asking those questions.
No, they are great questions. I think it's important to talk about this. And part of me coming on the show is also, uh, you know, to give the message out to our communities that we shouldn't suffer in silence. And, just on your question, I guess people of lived experience as refugees, because of civil wars, we go through enormous challenges, um, often not because we chose to be there in that circumstance, but it's just unfortunate in time and place that we had to experience certain things. Uh, but what's most important is that through our experience, it has created us to be more resilient. That's one thing I look at, but also appreciate life to its fullest. It has given us that lens to look at life in a much more richer way that often we in a I guess more peaceful countries might take for granted. Uh, you know, Clean drinking water, for example, things like that. Safety, security, freedom of speech. These are things that were taken away from
When
me.
you break it down to that level and you say clean drinking water, that
Yes,
really brings it home, doesn't it?
it does. We are so fortunate. You know, we get thirsty, you can just on the tap have a you know fresh glass of water. It's beautiful. And to the audience, I sincerely hope that these little things that we take for granted are actually the most precious things. And I think we have to learn to appreciate life. But coming back to your question, I guess uh, my story is very similar to many of us with lived experience as refugees. We've gone through enormous challenging times. Uh, but one thing I can say is that refugees are not the victims. We are survivors.
Yes.
We are brave, and we are resilient. And that is what drives me and gives me hope to see our communities, despite all the challenges we will put through. We are now here in Australia. We're able to give back to the society and help our communities. This is just beautiful piece of it. The other part is that you know in refugee camps, of course, the experience we go through, we don't wish it upon anyone. And that's the reality. It's a terrible condition. Uh, with
I've had the honour of your trust in
Mhm,
hearing some of your stories, or some of your stories in detail,
mhm.
and they are horrific. And I can't imagine how you have maintained your composure and your mental health, and this wonderful character that we have contributing to our community and Australian life at the moment in front of me. I don't know how you've done it. I congratulate you on that.
Thank you, thank you. It's also a part of the support that is around you and that you can put in place. And for me, and many of us, we understand the power of being able to give back than to just receive.
Mm,
In refugee camps, we've had limited options in life.
mm.
Uh, but despite that, we've come out on the other side much stronger, much more united, uh, and much more resilient. So it's
I see the evidence of it.
thank you.
So, as a migrant in a refugee camp fleeing from a civil war, what challenges did you encounter when you decided to settle in Australia? If that's in fact the right term, if you decided to settle in Australia, did you face any language barriers or experience cultural shock?
Just for firstly, I want to add add a line there, that for many of us who are refugees, um, at least in my experience, we don't get to choose where we want to settle.
Yes.
There is an office that is run by the UNHCR, and it is open once a month, and you go and inform them that you want to resettle, and the country that accepts you is a whole different story. So often there's misconception that you choose to go to a particular
So
country.
you didn't get to
It's
choose, I want to
no,
go to
no.
Australia, I'd like to go
Yeah.
to America.
So I feel very privileged that when after putting that submission in, and they said that, oh, we're going to resettle you to Australia, and it's most likely you'll be going to Melbourne. I was quite excited, but when our flight ended up in Sydney, I didn't know that there was a transit flight. So I said to my wife when the time met, I said, uh, I think we're not going to Melbourne. Maybe this is it. And,
So even at the Sydney airport, you
yes,
didn't
we
know whether
didn't
you were going to
know.
be staying in
No,
Sydney
not
or
at
coming
all.
to Melbourne.
And of course, I used to work in the non-for-profit international NGO space, and I thought that I had a good command over English. But one of the unique thing about us Australian is that we have a different way of saying things, and so in the first couple of months, it took me a while to adapt to the way we say things, and that's just the character we have. It's beautiful. So it took me a couple of months, and I had to go through the Adult Migrant English program, uh, catch up on my English, and then reskill myself. Um, and so those were part of my early experience. Of course, the first couple of weeks, I was just excited.
Mm,
I don't know why,
mm,
but just the
mm.
notion to be given a second chance in life was very
That's
beautiful.
how you saw it, a second
Yes,
chance in life.
indeed, indeed, it is. And and so it was a beautiful experience. But at the same time, when you're trying to look for rental properties, when you're trying to manage your income, that it's through the safety net, it's not easy.
Mm,
And then you begin to question, have I made the right
mm,
choice? Or, when would my breakthrough come?
mm,
The uncertainty, the fear of the unknown that everybody has,
mm,
no matter what background you are,
mm,
that goes through your mind, it plays up.
mm.
But for me, the first year, at least from memory, um, it was adjusting to that lifestyle here, where from a survival mode, now having to adjust to a more stable life, that was quite a challenge, a shift, and I vividly remembered. I had to remind myself that I'm here in Australia. Often I might wake up at night and just, even turn on the light and just remind myself that I've made it here. I'm safe here, and those little things, the security that we have here in our country is something that I've never had for a long, long time. And so to be able to sleep soundly, knowing that you'll wake up the next day, is a beautiful experience. And so, yeah, those were some of the shift challenges I had. Uh, Also not having a lot of friends back then, so I was very new. I didn't know who is who, and so it was also exciting, I should say, that I had to reintroduce myself to people and make new friends. So it was an exciting, but also at the same time, exploring the unknown.
It must have been very, very disorientating. You, there must have been times when you sort of wondered, is this going to stay, or am I suddenly going to be sort of thrown back in time, back into those traumatic situations that you
That
endured?
that does come in play, because it's too good to be true to be living here in this, this country, and you don't know how long that might last.
Mm.
And of course, for someone who has been stateless for majority of your life, it's
Stateless.
yes, stateless. Um, it is hard to come to terms with it, and you don't know how long this good dream is going to last, and so you don't want to wake up from it. But there is the possibility that you think, what if all these opportunities end up, and you'll have to go back to where you started. That does come to mind.
Can I ask you? You mentioned the term being stateless. What does that actually mean, and how does that affect you
Mhm.
as a refugee?
So, just to break it down, of course, when people flee a conflict in their
Mm.
country of origin,
Mm.
um, the the process until they are registered by the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission for
Mm.
Refugees,
Mm.
until they are registered, they are basically stateless because they've crossed borders,
Okay.
and so they don't have identity,
Hmm.
and so it, like in my experience, and many in our audience perhaps also would have gone through that experience of being stateless, because
Yeah, like
your
an
own
orphan,
country,
orphan in a
yeah,
sense.
your country doesn't want want you, or so,
Mm.
and the host country, it's not by choice that they welcome you.
Yes.
It might be because of the fear of being persecuted, you flee to their country. So
Yes.
they're also trying to sort out, well, what status to give you, and
Yes.
so that's when and so when once the UN register them, uh, then you become a refugee. But in that process, you're an asylum seeker. You're looking for safety, security,
Mm.
and it's a human right to seek for safety. And everybody has the right, if they are in fear of their life, to seek for safety. And so people exercise their human rights to seek for safety and security.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that is the part where they are stateless. Once they are given a refugee status, um, they might be resettled through the humanitarian program. And so, like myself and many of those who might be watching,
Mm.
we
Mm.
get to be resettled to another country, the third country
Mm.
or host country,
Mm. Mm.
who would give us permanent residency, but also a pathway to citizenship
Mm.
and rebuild our identity.
Mm.
And so often I say, when I introduce myself, I say I'm a proud Australian with Burmese heritage, and so I'm very proud of my new identity.
I liked it before when you spoke about language and you said we Australians have a certain way of speaking.
Indeed, we
And
do.
you really identify with being Australian and being a part of this country and this community.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's wonderful, boy. Lovely, lovely to hear that. On a more personal level, how did you deal with or work around your own stressors, the challenges and the traumas that I've been privy to hear from you? Did you adopt new outlooks, attend therapy, or simply move on with life and put them in the background somehow?
So there are certain things in life, once you cross the line and you see a traumatic thing, or you experience a traumatic event, you cannot undo it. And it's, for myself and for many of us with lived experience, about coming to terms with it. And it gives me hope that when I see communities from refugee background thriving so well here in Australia, it gives me aspiration and inspiration to to adapt to the life that I have, but also it allows me to realize that that is the past and that I need to move forward. Of course, for me, one of the things that had a big impact was when I first arrived. We had the refugee health nurses that assisted our well-being. And one of the message that I wanted to share with our viewers was after having the assessment, checking our blood pressure and so forth, if we had any, um, dental requirement and all these checkup, and then the nurse said to me, "Do you have any other health concern?" You know, it's just beautiful
Mm.
to know that someone genuinely wanted to look after your well-being. I didn't have that privilege for large part of my life. So
I was going to say, how long had it been since
uh,
anybody had asked that question of
that's
you?
right. So for me, that was in a way for me, you know, like that glimmer of hope
Yes.
to know that I've made it here, but also I've come to this wonderful country where my well-being is it matters.
Mm.
And so I was truly grateful. Uh, Little things like that uh, really
Mm.
change your outlook in life
Mm.
because that gives you hope.
Mm.
That gives you the energy,
Mm.
or it energizes you to look on
That
beyond your
that was
circumstances.
the energy to keep
Yes.
you going, give you hope, optimism.
And also, like many in our communities now, we talk about how the trauma has impacted our life so
Mm.
openly.
Mm. Mm.
It's not a taboo conversation
No, it's
anymore,
not.
and that is very important.
Mm.
That no one should suffer in silence.
Mm.
We should talk about these issues. We should seek help. And if the system cannot observe the needs of our communities, we should unite and work together with governments, service providers to see how those challenges can be addressed.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a combination. There is no one size fit all, and it's as complex as that. So it's about everyone has a different journey, and so I really look up to my fellow refugee community members who do so well here in Australia, and that inspires me a lot.
That's very powerful stuff and wonderful, wonderful stuff too. Despite facing many challenges, you were able to overcome through perseverance and a positive attitude. You've transformed these difficulties into accomplishments and become an inspiration to others who are facing similar struggles. Your willingness to assist those in similar situations is truly admirable. And your story serves as a reminder that nobody is alone in their struggles. You can truly achieve anything with determination and hope. It's clear that education is a subject that holds great significance to you. As far as I understand, you've successfully completed your studies at the Australian Catholic University, and you've also occupied the prestigious position of Migrant Student and Community Liaison Officer at Swinburne University. Additionally, you've played a crucial role in Swinburne's Migrant Aspiration Project and have been an enthusiastic supporter of the university's Welcome Scholarship. Goodness, what do you do in your spare time? Your generosity towards Swinburne led to the planting of a welcome tree on campus, which serves as a warm representation of Australia's diversity and multiculturalism. So it's important to acknowledge that for all migrants and refugees, pursuing education and finding employment can be a challenging process, despite their accomplishments in their home countries, some of which you've told me about yourself, which were not recognised in Australia. They often begin anew completely in Australia in terms of training, literacy, all of these issues. Can you share how Swinburne University has impacted your life and what significance it holds for you? Additionally, in your opinion, what impact can education have on the lives of other migrants?
I guess education is something that is very close to my heart. I think education has the power to transform life. Through my lived experience, um, everything was taken away from me, but it was the education that kept me going, that really allowed me to adapt and rebuild myself, reskill myself. Uh, and for many in our communities, many are not as fortunate as I am because because of the discrimination they face back home in their country of origin, might not have access to formal education. And so we have to recognize that as well. So here in Australia, one of the beautiful things we have is our education system, world-class education system that really allows people who have come here even as adults to learn the language, build up those literacy skills, go on to take up numerous educational pathways, and then secure, stable employment so that they can be financially independent. So it's just, I think, my gratitude to Swinburne University is for the university's decision to not only symbolic plant the welcome tree to welcome the communities, but uh, I guess in a more deeper way to symbolize that we want multicultural communities, especially those from refugee backgrounds and migrants, to grow their roots on the campuses that are here in Australia. And that's why it's called the welcome
The
tree.
welcome tree.
And, it's about us growing together and rebuilding our lives and moving on. So so much credit to the university
Yes,
to
we
take
should.
that initiative. Uh, and it was in a time when there was a lot of debate about refugee issues, and so it was very, very beautiful for the
And
university to come,
courageous.
yeah, and courageous to come out and say, we welcome these communities. We want them to benefit from the power of education. We want them to have a better life here with us. And so that that's why I nearly spent a decade working there, and so credit to all my colleagues, my managers, my former boss, to the vice chancellors, the deputy vice chancellors, pro vice chancellors. All of them have contributed to the decision making, and for that I am truly, truly grateful.
I have to say that the Mental Health Foundation Australia also has a wonderful relationship with Swinburne University. So what you say just backs up our experience of our partnership with them also. And do you think many other institutions are following that example now?
Yes, I can see that there are a lot of initiatives done in order to explore around mental health and well-being space from different institutions, and that gives me great hope as well. And I sincerely hope that these things are not done in place to look good,
No,
but we're doing it because it's not just the right reason, but it's because it's a smart reason.
it's not
And
window dressing.
yeah, it is about empowering our communities. It's about making change.
Yes.
It's the social impact component we have to look at, our social responsibility as educational institutions, so that there are positive, tangible outcomes for our communities. So I commend all the universities on all these initiatives that they are undertaking, and I hope that these programs are not there for a one-off, but are there to stay, and that gives me hope.
I'm sure it wasn't a one-way proposition. I'm sure you gave as good as you got because you have a very friendly and welcoming personality. I'm sitting here looking at your warm smile and your approachable manner, and it's very obvious that you like to interact well with me and obviously with others. Talking to the people who are watching, hopefully, this video and enjoying the interaction. I'm curious when you communicate with refugees and migrants through the numerous organisations, and I know how many you do communicate with. Um, what do they say to you? What are the things they want to discuss with you? What are the important issues for them?
Mhm. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is they want their voice to be heard, and also uh, apart from that, it's about wanting to address maybe perhaps issues that impact their communities. And in a society as diverse as that we live in here, in a multicultural society, um, quite interestingly, we have more in common than we have differences. So it's about how we can explore together. And often people reach out to me to ask, who should we bring on the discussion? Who should we bring on board? What partnership opportunities might be there, what collaboration can happen.
Mm.
And so it's in that space where many of our communities reach out to me to see what can we do together as a society,
Mm.
uh, so that no one is suffering in silence or left behind, and that we can address these issues together.
Mm.
Uh, and it makes so much more sense because, uh, you know, resources are scarce, and so it's about us how we work together, and there's so much we have in common, and so that is the angle that often communities reach out to me, and I feel very privileged and humble that I could, contribute to those discussions or be able to guide or direct those community conversations to who we could bring on board, or what other doors could we knock on,
Mm. Mhm. Mm.
and see how we can, come together, not only to address issues, but also to celebrate the diversity we have, the different cultures, the opportunity to learn about each other. It's just beautiful. Here in Victoria, we speak over, 270 languages, you know, and that's just how diverse we are. And for the opportunity, without having to pay anything, we have the opportunity to learn about each other's culture. This is just the benefit of living in a multicultural society.
And may I just agree with you completely, because in my 70 years on this planet and in this place, I've seen such enormous changes, and I agree with you. They are far to the better for all of us as a result. But you're explaining to me that how many initiatives, projects, functions, etc., that you go to, and you're so exhausted by the end of the week, and you get 1 day a week off. You literally have to collapse and sleep that day, and just rest and recuperate. So, how do you maintain the energy? I can see the enthusiasm, but just how do you
Mm.
do it? How do you continue to do it? Because it is very emotional, draining, meeting people, and you must hear some very tragic stories and some very frustrating stories sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah, I think self-care is very important.
Yes. Hmm.
But also I must acknowledge my wife, Corey, who is very supportive. I'm able to do a large part of what I do because of her support, and also my kids
Hmm.
sharing their father with the broader communities. And so I'm really grateful to my family, but also to many of my mentors who have been instrumental in guiding me, and allowing me to advocate at a space where I can really make I guess outcomes, or even be the voice for the voiceless,
Hmm.
or be the voice for those who are hardly heard. And you know during the pandemic, it was a very challenging time here in Victoria, but there were so many lessons that we learned through that. How we could better communicate with each other, how could we better work together in partnerships, how can we address issues that impacts our communities together. And I hope those learnings through the work I do at the Victorian Multicultural Commission. There are many recommendations that we put forward to uh, different submissions
Mm.
on embedding the lessons learned
Mm. Mm.
from the pandemic.
Mm.
It was a terrible time, but it's also a time when we were able to see firsthand
Mm.
some of those solutions. And I sincerely hope going forward we can embed those lessons learned. And so those are things that drives me. But self-care is important. The support is everything to me. But also when I see our communities thriving here in Victoria, our multicultural communities, but also those especially with lived experience thriving here in Victoria, that gives me hope. And so that really drives me the you know to push every day, and that keeps me up, and active, happy,
Keeps
and
you up.
yes. So yeah, it's not just one factor that works
Mm.
for me,
Mm.
but yeah, it's important, um, when you have good friends around you, and when you have amazing communities around you,
Mm. Mm.
that energy goes to you. And so I feel very blessed to be in that position where I get so much support and love.
Mm. So, put ourselves in an imaginary situation where we've got a younger boy just commencing the journey, been through really horrific experiences, etc., or it's another refugee family or migrant group. What would your essential advice be to yourself or to the migrant refugee family coming to Australia, having overcome or having experienced those difficulties, but hopefully a better future ahead of them? What would your advice be to them?
I think there are many ways I can say this, but one simple way that I'll put it is that embrace the moment. Um, Life is not all about the fun part. There will be time, you have to accept that there will be a time where you need to reskill yourself. There will be a time where you need to work at entry level jobs. You have to just accept every moment that comes to you. And that's part of life. It's beautiful. Life is beautiful. And so, don't look at it in a negative way. Whatever you experience, embrace it and run with it. Every opportunities that come with you. Starting a new life as a refugee, it might not be easy. Uh, I had a very difficult one, just trying to find a private rental, or getting my first job. It was not easy, but I want to reassure our communities who have come to Australia that you're not alone in that journey. Um, and that's exactly what the Victorian Multicultural Commission is advocating very strongly for our communities to thrive, to have better social cohesion. And it's an intersectionality of where Mental Health Foundation and the VMC shares very similar, values
Yes.
or objectives or
Yes.
mission. It is to empower our communities,
Yes.
to create a better space for us.
Yes.
So to all those who are watching, if you're a new migrant to this country, if you're from a refugee background, there are so many incredible stories out there about people who have come here with nothing and have built a life for themselves,
Yes.
a life for their family, for their communities. And to the young people who are watching this, please take advantage of the world-class education system we have in Australia. It will really transform your life. Uh, don't take anything for granted. Every opportunities that come your way, hold it with both hands, run with it, and just hope for the best. And nothing is perfect. We're only humans. There will be setbacks, but those setbacks should be viewed as a way of learning, so that you can grow more stronger, but also be able to guide those behind you. And so let me assure you this, that you're not in that journey alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. We are all here together to work together.
Yes.
And,
And
it's a
there are
matter of time the right people come into your lives.
And there are people who care, like yourself, like the Victorian Multicultural Council, for
Commission.
example. Commission, I'm sorry. I always make that mistake. I always do that. Wade, look, we here at the Mental Health Foundation, Wade, commend you for your exceptional courage and openness in sharing this remarkable story. Your unwavering strength and helpful nature are an inspiration to us all, and genuinely, we thank you for it and being here today. And
Thank you very much, Jim. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. And also, I want to thank all the community members who are tuning in. Please share the love, and please share the podcast with your friends and your network. And let's all work together to empower our communities and for a better mental health for all our communities. So thank you once again for having me. Okay.
to our listeners and our viewers, we trust that this episode has been a source of enlightenment, education, motivation, or provocation. We appreciate your tuning in. We aim to raise awareness of the mental health struggles faced by refugees and migrants in this episode. If you are not aware of these experiences, we hope to have provided you with some insight. For those who are already familiar or have had experiences of it themselves, we hope you find comfort in the knowledge that you are not alone. Your experience is shared by too many, unfortunately, and there is support available to you. Remember, you are never alone. Empowering Voices of Harmony aims to showcase voices that have been pushed aside, dismissed, or have remained unheard for some time. We're here to empower those voices and to hear them, to platform voices that need to be heard with stories that need to be told. Thank you.